Hi, and welcome to Behind the Scenes, an artist's journey, where we take an inside look at different careers in the performing arts. Today, we are happy to have with us Ginger Turner, who just finished an amazing 27-year tenure with the U.S. Army Field Band. Welcome, Ginger. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
We are so thrilled to have you with us. So before we get into all the fun stuff, how are you holding up with COVID and all the quarantine craziness?
It is crazy, and it's definitely a challenge for all of us, but we're finding new places, new ways to express ourselves, new ways to hang and connect with our families. It's taken us to a new spot.
I don't know about you, but I've been absolutely amazed by all of the virtual creativity and content being put out in the arts.
It's amazing.
It is absolutely amazing. Ginger, before we dive into everything, I want to give tell our viewers a little bit about you, go through some of your career highlights. So feel free to blush and smile because it's been quite amazing. Recently retired from a 27-year tenure performing with the U.S. Army Field Band. Designer and coordinator of the widely used instructional video, A Trumpeter's Resource. You developed the Building a Better Brass section through the development of a brass quintet, which was presented nationwide at many music conferences. Long-standing and active member of the Monarch Brass since 2008. And as we all know, very involved with the Women's Brass Conference since 2003, serving as a board member, the chair of the Susan Slaughter Solo Competition, the Ginger Turner Ensemble Competition, and then you produce the amazing holiday brass concert every year in Baltimore, which has quickly become one of everyone's favorite things to attend. You attended Arizona State University for your bachelor's in education and master's in performance, and you are a Conn-Selmer Educational Artist. What a career, my dear.
Quick correction, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, first degree was music ed at New Mexico State.
Oh, New Mexico State.
And there was 3 years in between where I taught school in South Texas. And then I went to Arizona State for my master's and my unfinished doctorate.
Studying with Dave Hickman.
Dave Hickman, right.
I think one of the things that really stands out, you and I both feel the same on this, is your support for young artists. I can remember a few times, including most recently this week, where we were on the phone and you said, our good friend Luke Spence just finished a doctorate, and you said, hey, what are we gonna do with Luke? We gotta get him a job. So right. I just remember, anytime we've talked, especially about young artists, your support of young artists and helping to give them opportunities is just really amazing, and it's so important to their development. So
somebody did it for us. We were all there.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you first get started in music? Let's rewind the wheel back to as early as you want to rewind it. I'll let you decide.
Well, I grew up in New Mexico, and 6th grade was when you started band, and I had a cacophony of teeth everywhere, and you walk into the band director and they look at your mouth and they say, you want to be in band? You should play the flute. And I was like, no, I want to make a lot of noise. I don't want to play the flute. So they said, well, you're going to have braces. And I said, yeah, I'm going to have braces. That's going to be okay. So my mom had played the cornet years ago and had gotten a degree and was a little bit of a band director and played the cornet when it was not very many women played that. So I got to start out on her old vintage cornet, and I worked around the braces, which made me a brass player who didn't use a lot of pressure. So it worked out fine. And I was able to make the significant amount of noise that I wanted to make. Because at 12, I was a little rough and tumble kid,
Yeah.
So that's where I started. And I went all through junior high and high school. And once the music bug bites you, you're a musician, you're a music kid. Mm-hmm. And all the other things that went wrong in my life, the music was the place I always came back to. Mm-hmm. I had drug issues, I skipped school issues, but the band director would always be the place where, hey, if you keep getting in trouble, you can't play in my band. Oh, well, I guess I'll stop getting in trouble because I want to be in your band.
Right.
In a way, that whole music thing, it shaped me as a person. It kept me on track and made me very successful. A funny sidebar is that when I was in the 9th grade, my dad was a college professor and we went on sabbatical. That's where you leave to go to another place for a year.
Mhm.
And in New Mexico, I was about ready to be the big shot of junior high band, ninth grade. Big shot trumpet player, first chair. When we moved to Georgia, ninth grade was the bottom of high school. And they had never seen a girl trumpet player before. And they made fun of me so much that I quit. And my parents, my mom, had a meeting with the band director and he said, I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening, but I don't want her to quit. If she will play treble clef euphonium, I'll put her in my top band. She can play the trumpet at home and she can play euphonium in my band. And I did that for ninth grade. Now, the reason that's important is because in this world of mine, I've grown up as a female brass player, a woman trumpet player. And then in the ninth grade, I got bullied or whatever by some boys into playing the euphonium and out of their world, and then came back out of that as a trumpet player. So I think that sort of shaped my you want to what? I mean, people say you don't mess with me because I'm a straight shooter and here's what I have. If it's not a good enough product, I will go home and make it better and I will bring it out again. But I'm certainly not going to let you intimidate me out of giving it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was a pivotal time. What was I, 15, 16 years old? That's an important time in everybody's life.
Yeah.
So then I finished high school, went to New Mexico State, right in the little town where I grew up, got a 5-year music ed degree because I wanted to be a trumpet player. So all I did was practice and gig. And then I went and taught school in Texas, South Texas, for 3 years on a staff of band directors where all I had to teach was trumpet, jazz band, and the front of a marching band. And then from there, I went to Arizona State, and that's where I kind of honed my trumpet life with Dave Hickman.
So tell us about Dave Hickman.
He was a serious taskmaster. Wasn't that impressed with me when I first got there, and I had to prove myself, which I did. He actually referred to me as Ellie Mae, and and then 2 years later, when I finished my master's, he said, "Hey, would you like to stay and work on your doctorate and be my TA?" And I was like, "Guess that Ellie Mae thing is done now, right?" I've said, "Oh yeah, you're good," you know. And again, he was honest. That's where I was. I didn't know a lot of stuff. I didn't own a lot of horns, but I had some degree of talent, and with some degree of talent and a lot of hard work, you can achieve any goal you want. It's just, there's nothing that can stop you. And so I was very dedicated and I did what I had to do to succeed in his studio. And then was working on my doctorate when the Army Field Band job audition came up, and a friend of mine dared me to take the audition. So I did, and I won. And then I was like, oh, this is a career change, because I wanted to teach college. That's because I like teaching.
Yeah.
So went there and I thought, I'll just do 3 years. We're doing a little student loan buyback, you know, it's be groovy. 27 years later, bam, I'm here.
So tell us about the field band. Tell us about life with the field band and how it impacted your life.
It really was singly the best thing I ever did for myself. When I look back on it now, obviously, I'll be 60 this summer. I have a pension. I have health care for the rest of my life. Simply because I always say I played one good audition. I played one good audition, I got in the door. Then what I did with myself once I got in the door is what makes the difference. They hadn't had a woman there. So there was some old guys in that trumpet section who were, you know, a little surly. And I just did my job. I didn't try to offend anybody. I just laid low, played my horn, and eventually got noticed. You know, you come in, you sit there, play third cornet. Okay. The other people, clearly, you know, you're the new kid. I'm better than them. Really? Does that matter? It really doesn't matter at that point.
Right.
You know, they've been there. They've done the job a long time. So, you know, you sit back and learn the ropes. And I so loved the gig because it's not ceremonial in nature. It's entertainment. We played concerts. We traveled around the country and around the world and played concerts.
Yeah.
You're away from your family and friends a little bit, and that's a struggle, but it was such a family environment. You're playing with the same people day after day after day. It's not getting subbed out. We need 8 trumpets. No, we need you 6 guys. Those are the guys. So the band just starts to sound absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And that becomes more important than being home. A 2-hour incredible performance warms my heart more than being home.
For any of our viewers who don't know, tell us the mission of the field band and what its purpose is in the Army band system.
The Army Field Band is what they call the musical ambassadors of the Army. So it's designed to take the mission of the Army, the professionalism of the Army, into the grassroots of America for people to see and identify with. People all over the country have family members who are serving, or they serve themselves, but
Right.
they rarely get a chance to shake a hand, pat someone on the back, see a soldier. So you roll into town, your behavior, even in civilian clothes, is like, oh, who are those new people? Polite, respectful soldiers taking care of business. And then at night you pop into their concert hall or their gym or their multi-use venue, and you put together a concert with flags and medals and ribbons, and they get to feel good about America. It's a great feel-good job. Super good PR for the Army is basically what it is.
Yeah. I reflected with Colonel Tim Holton was on another interview that we did, and we were reflecting on some things. And I said, when I joined the Maryland Winds, one of the words that always resonates with me is family. And I think that really, anytime I've come in contact with, any of the Army musicians, or once you meet them, you're family, and it's a really amazing, unique. Having played mostly orchestral music in my life, making, diving into this new realm has really been amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely a family feeling in the band world.
For sure.
Yeah.
So tell us any really memorable performances that stick out for you, or or funny performance stories you might have. Tim had a great one for us, so I'm very interested to see what you've got for us.
All right. Well, memorable, obviously 9/11. I was in the military. I remember that day. We were on Fort Meade, as all of those events unfolded. But the point is, that was September. That October, we were set to go to Alaska. What a neat tour spot. Very rarely did we get to Alaska. I went there twice with the band. So we were able to still keep the Alaska tour, even with all of the confines of post 9/11. And we flew to Anchorage. We did some stuff, and then they came and picked us up in C-130s, which are military transport planes, and flew us to the top of Alaska in Anchorage, inside the Arctic Circle. Mm-hmm. And we landed on a snow runway, and the people from Barrow, it's called Barrow, Alaska, came with pickup trucks and school buses to offload all of our gear to take it to this multicultural center. So we played a concert there for essentially mostly indigenous Eskimos, who were delighted beyond belief to see other Americans post 9/11. And we had changed our program at that time to be even more patriotic than it was. And there was a segment where we played taps, and I got to play taps that night. And I didn't do a lot of taps in my life because I didn't play a lot of ceremonies, but to be able to play taps in that environment for those people, it was a whole full circle military moment that was really, really cool.
Wow.
And then as a soloist, a few times with the band, I had great times. I remember playing down in Naples, Florida, in a beautiful concert hall, playing the Tomasi, and I thought, you know what? It just doesn't get any better than this. Like, if I could get better, that would be awesome, but this is cool. And then my funniest gig moment is Phoenix, Arizona, trying to make a living, brass quintet job, some rich people. It was somebody's birthday. And they lived in townhouses that were surrounded by little man-made waterway, kind of like they have in Italy, where they have the guys with the things.
Sure.
That's what tied all the things together. So they gave us each quintet member was in one of those gondola boat things with someone pushing us, and we were trying to play, like That's a Plenty and Dixie tunes, all like while floating around in this river, and we had headlamps like that so that we could see the music. That's the funniest gig I ever played.
In water.
In water.
Oh.
On the water. It was pretty funny. It was pretty fun.
Ginger, tell us about your biggest mentors and influential teachers in your life that really helped shape you. I mean, obviously we talked a little bit about Dave Hickman, but let's talk a little bit more about your teachers.
Yeah, well, obviously Dave Hickman, he being there in that studio with all those great trumpet players at that time, because Jens Lindemann was there, Donnie Duncan was there, Ed Reed was there. There's been a lot of famous people. Joe Bergstoller was there at that time. There was a lot of people, so learned a lot from all those guys. But in my life, there's always been this Susan Slaughter character. She was the first female principal trumpet, St. Louis Symphony. I met her obviously at IWBC in the early days, in the 90s, when she started that organization. But more importantly, when I was in high school and the boys were making fun of me once I was back playing the trumpet, and the band director, once he put his arm around me, chair test, I came out, I was first chair again, and somebody had been yakking at me, and he said, Ginger, there's a woman principal trumpet of the St. Louis Symphony. There's a role model out there for you. And I thought, where is that and who is she? And I was, 17 years old. So years later, it's the 90s, I go to this conference and I see her. And I see the amazing work that she's done to try to unite women brass players. And then we end up having coffee, being friends. I get some lessons from her. Amazing teacher, amazing personal mentor. Like, she's your person. As musicians, we all need somebody. Hey, who can I call? It's her. And so then all of a sudden she said, maybe you should bring these holiday brass concerts to Baltimore. We'll help you. I was a board member. I went to her concert, saw how they did it, went to Baltimore and got them started. And we were like in year 2 or 3. And she called me and said, hey, our concerts are a week apart this year. How about I come out for yours? And I was like, and I can just stay with you. And I was like, okay. So here I am, full circle, of a 40, 50-year-old professional trumpet player, and Susan Slaughter is staying in my house. I'm making concerts in her shadow. It's her vision. She came up with the plan, and we're sitting there having coffee. So it's just, she has really completed me. I'm very happy to be in her shadow. It's awesome. Wow. She's a cool cat. And the conference has just gotten really big. Solo competition, obviously named after her. That's been the driving force. $5,000 in prize money, and I assisted her with it for a number of years. And as she's getting older, she has asked me to take over the full responsibility of it, and I'm proud to do it, and always want to make sure I do it in the fashion that she would have done it. So that's the plan.
Ginger, what advice would you give? Let's talk about young artists. We talked a little bit in the beginning about how we both feel so strongly about supporting them. What advice would you give to high school students looking to make a career in music or the arts, or college students? What words would you have for them?
Being in high school and being in college are slightly different spots for us as musicians, but the high school place is where you get started kind of with your work ethic, I feel. And there's so much going on. And now all of y'all have so much media, the phone, I always, whenever I teach, whenever I coach, I'm like, this should be used for good, not evil. So first and foremost, it's the amount of time you spend dedicated to your craft. And your craft is not just playing your instrument, but making music with your instrument, making connections with people with your instrument. And there's so much media out there that can help you now, that I always say, for good, not evil, on the phone, turn it off, stop. And for me, when I was younger, it helped me a lot to, okay, this is my 30 minutes. Here it is. It's a hard 30 minutes. I'm going to focus the whole 30. And what I'm going to use this for is record myself. And that's all. And it's not that big a deal. And turn it on, record something every day. It's not a big deal. Press record. Nobody's going to hear it. It's not getting published. It's not out in the ethernet, you know, just record something and then re-listen. And I think it's also very important to have multiple practice sessions so that you're sharp. And then at the end of every day, play something that you sound fantastic on. Because ending your day when your chops are shot and whatever you just did feels terrible, kind of carries over into tomorrow. Whereas if you just take a minute, take a couple of nights rest and play a beautiful phrase or a beautiful song or something that you enjoyed that sounds fabulous. Then put the horn in the case. Tomorrow feels way different than today ending terrible, because that still carries over to tomorrow. So when you're young, I think that that's super important. When you get to college, it's time to get after it, and nothing really should get in the way. You've got to make a lot of connections. There are people, I just said it earlier, there are people that were at when I was in grad school, there are people when I was in undergrad that I still know in the music business. And guess what? You're going to know them forever. So being nasty to them or not creating a bond is bad. Creating a bond is really good, because you're probably going to get them a job or they're going to get you a job. Because 99% of the work you get is from somebody you know. Somebody you know wants to hire you. So you have to make sure, especially in the college setting, that your habits are professional. And by that, it's quite simple. Answer your phone, return your messages, and show up early to every gig. It's not complicated. It's really not complicated.
Very, very fantastic.
You add that, because that's just a life skill. If you're in the Army, you add, make sure your hair is up or cut and your uniform and shoes are clean. Really? That's difficult, isn't it? If you break it down into the smallest denominators, this little success that we want is up to us. And it's controlled at the very smallest level of choices. Have you ever heard that story? People say, people who make their bed are very successful. What does that mean? Does it mean making your bed makes you successful? It does not. It means the process of taking care of business on a very micro level will make you successful. And that pulling up the sheet and putting the comforter down and fluffing the pillow, 5 seconds, it's focusing me. Everything I'm going to do is successful that day. I'm on a mission. Now, you also need to schedule downtime. Okay, schedule it. It's there. It just, you can't, I think scheduling is the key to the success. Making a plan and a lot of contact with people. Of course, right now we're feeling that, but those relationships will be there forever.
I think scheduling is a huge thing, and and really taking care of yourself. We, especially freelance musicians, we are in 50 different genres and venues and going 50 different directions, that making sure, that you block out me time, and you're very, and frankly, a little selfish about it, because taking care of yourself and your mental health, as we know, bleeds into everything. And speaking of physical health, we know you're recovering from you took the brace off. You had a terrible injury. You broke your wrist, correct?
Had a little ice accident.
So we're glad you're
better. I'm on the mend.
You're on the mend. So we can be hopefully biking together soon.
Yeah. And playing a lot more trumpet. Right now I can only play for about a half an hour before it gets to be just, it doesn't feel good.
Well, Ginger, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just thrilled to have you on here. You're such a dear person in my life, and I'm so happy to be able to share about your life and career with everyone.
Well, I really appreciate you asking. It's always an honor to what I did doesn't seem very amazing to me because I did it. Right. But if sharing it can help other people have a more feel better about what they're trying to do and a more positive approach, I would do it every day. It's awesome. Thank you for what you're trying to do. And especially in this era, this is a super smart idea. And like I always say, surround yourself with amazing people and you will find yourself amazing. So thank you, Greg.
Thank you.